Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bar Academy. It's me, Barcast. We're going to be reviewing a couple of 1v1 tickets today from the Bar Academy, featuring the Dungeon on Archimcats Valley and another 1v1 on Feast of Haiti featuring CJ Mills. So if that's something you're interested in participating in, you can always join the conversation over in the main Discord. If you want to have your own replays reviewed, I'd encourage you to submit them there. There's plenty of mentors to work with you. It doesn't have to be 1v1s. Actually, we can do AP8, small team games. I don't think I've ever seen a free-for-all ticket, but if you submit one, I'll look at it for you. So that's that. I'll give you a little introduction to this first one we're going to go into from the Dujin. He submits, lost this duel on Archimcats yesterday. I've already watched the replay and have come to the following conclusions about major mistakes. 1. My radar micro was much worse than my opponent's. 2. I didn't build enough static defense, which would have helped immensely against raids. We'll see about that. 3. I took less expansions, in part because of 1 and 2, but also forgot. So my questions are these the main things that went wrong? Were there other major things that contributed to the loss? Any tips on improving on these major mistakes? Any different tactics I should have tried, e.g. make Roccos, push through mid? Or was the raiding back and forth the better plan? Grunt Micro seems to be kiting lets you win, yeah. Attacking forward seems to require active APM attention to kite at the correct moment, or else the pawns get on top of you. Well, welcome to 1v1s, grunts versus pawns. Any tips on micro and grunt raids while still reserving APM for ecoing and other simultaneous attacks? Please feel free to pick any and all mistakes or inefficiencies in part of the game. Well, that's what we're here for. Hopefully, you can pick up on your own mistakes or reflect on your own mistakes in games and maybe apply some of these same principles that I'm going to be going over here. So let's get into the replay. Just transfer this scene over. Look at that. Huzzah. And let's get into the replay. So if this is your first time here, this is Barcast TV. I do a lot of 1v1 replay reviews. Play 1v1s, first person. I've been streaming 8v8, stuff like that, but more than happy to have you here. If you can, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all around. So let's get into it. We've got our man, the Dungeon opening cortex here on this high ground. I guess I can give a brief little overview of the map. This is Archimcats Valley. God, that's hard to say. Really high wind speed, 19 wind speed, 2 minimum. There's actually a really decent title, and I don't see many players make those in 1v1s, but the title speed is actually pretty high. There's a couple of interesting terrain features, notably these high ground plateaus in the corner. There's these little ponds that are rather traversable, actually. There's some pretty nice paths that you can cross over. Here. I think there's some other ones that are a little bit imbalanced, but I don't recall them off the top of my head. And then, of course, there's just a bunch of this energy reclaim. And these trees are massive, like, 600 energy. So there's also a decent amount. Can I show that? There's a little bit of metal reclaim kind of sprinkled up on this high ground plateau. So resbot openings are are actually very strong. And there is a geo. So AGOs, despite even on 20 wind speed or 19 wind speed, AGOs are still very effective. There's even another one here forward that you see players opt to make Cerberus sometimes, but I still like to make this an AGO. So they're just too good. Anyways, let's get into the replay. I think I introduced the map well enough. Wind was low, so our man, the Dungeon, opted for a solar here after a 3max open, which is perfectly acceptable. Going for a second wind, and I believe off of this, even like solar and two winds at 2 wind speed, he still should be able to get this bot lab up. We see he has a couple extra winds queued up and a radar. I think the radar might be a little bit early. And what do we see? Yeah, so Resbot first. Love to see that. We're still making these wins. I prefer to have these spaced out. I know a lot of players like to kind of block themselves in like this. I just think, personally, you can shoot through spaced wind turbines a little better. That little bit of a walk was a bit of a miss micro there. And then, yeah, we see winds dropping down. Still dropping down. This is about the point where I would just opt to make a second solar here. Like, wind's not behaving. We're trying to get the Resbot out. And you can always reclaim it down the road with the Resbot. So I like to say if you're not stalling energy while making these wind turbines while wind is low, just continue making them. But in this exact situation, I'd say, yeah, you've got the little lightning bolt above your head. That means we're not using all of our commander's build power. Wait, where is this? Limit zoom. Yeah, there it is. Okay. You're not using all of that build power from the commander. Another little nitpicky thing is we can see you have I don't think you actually have a rally point on your lab, but like say you did have the rally point out here, the units are going to come to this point right in front of the lab and they'll like stop and then walk to that rally point. So that is actually a very tiny inefficiency. And notice how your resbot, you have it to come reclaim and then it walks like this. You can actually select a unit on the lab, and as it's coming off, if you just spam click behind the lab, it'll like turn around here where it's standing and then just walk this way behind the lab. So you can save yourself a few seconds really with that early resbot. So it's going to come over here, and I can see you're actually grabbing them. You did an area reclaim. I would just walk it straight to these trees because right now you have some metal in the bank and energy is your limiting resource. So prioritize getting that energy reclaim with this early resbot and not so much the metal. And for a single grunt, I still think that's a bit unnecessary. Given the size of this map, you can get away with Resbot Con off of a 3-max open, unless you're playing like Bashi or something like that. Because we can see our opponent went very similar open, 3-max, 2 solars, right? And 2 ticks even before Resbot or Con. So the ticks are all the way over here on the other side of the map, right? So you can absolutely get away with making the Con and then go into like 2 grunts and then continue making Cons, but like that. We're still stalling energy, so still this radar is a bit preemptive. I would just continue making wins, and that'll like get this con out faster. It'll get your subsequent grunts out faster. So you should be able to, I know radars are really strong, but given like given the layout of this high ground plateau, you really just need to park 1 grunt there, 1 grunt here, 1 grunt here, and you're pretty buttoned up against these like super early ticks. So I would lay off of this super early radar until we've solved our energy issues. I still see a little bit of walking going on too, which is a bit inefficient considering we have like all this space to make wins. And then we can still just rotate and continue assisting the lab. So we see we've got our energy issues solved. We're just sitting on the lab. So we've got a twin guard turned on right here. This is absolutely unnecessary, I'd say. And in terms of radars and expansion patterns, I actually like to come up here, grab this mechs first. I might be wrong on this because you in a way you should be prioritizing 3 mexes as expansions over 1 mexes, but you do get this really tidy radar right here, which is pretty good. And then with your second con that expands this way, you can put another radar over here and things are pretty well buttoned up. Like, yeah, that's a good radar spot. You can see all the way to the edge of the map over here. Same for this one. You can see units sneaking by this way, right? So that's really what you're looking for when in these radar positions is how like can you place them so they're tucked up against the edge. The extent of the radar range is tucked up against the side of the map. But to the point about this twin guard, like I was saying earlier, you can defend your plateau by just putting units here, here, and here. And this is absolutely just complete overkill this early on in the game. So I'd like to see something like, you know, mex, and then you just come over here and maybe make an LLT right here. See? Units can't run past that, and then you just continue expanding this way. So big blunder there, I'd say. Still assisting the lab. You're getting our second con out. 6 more grunts, con. Don't hate it. Really, I think on these like wind maps, when you're opening bots, if you can just get 2 expanding cons out and then defend them with units, you're in a good spot. So we see this grunt. Not really in position. I don't even think we can kind of notice this tick. So really prioritize getting these units in the position where your opponent is going to try and get past you, right? Another mistake I'm seeing is this energy storage is way too early. You are about where I would say, about the energy income you'd need to satisfy this, but we're not really accessing that much. So what I'd rather see is an additional con come out and then even place the con turret. So on a map like this, I would say go get your first con turret up and then go for the energy storage, something like that, because we still have a decent amount of energy here. How much have we accessed actually? Yeah, 1.83k. So how much does a con turret cost? I think it's about 2,000. Oh, excuse me, 3,200. So we can surely pay for this with what energy we had here. And yeah, that'll like tidy this up. So we're getting this out. We're not defending against the 2 ticks that are coming in. We do notice that they're on radar though, so I'd like to see a nice reaction from both of these units. Or even getting an LLT in the main. I would absolutely just never do this. I think some players might say otherwise, or it's like, oh, it kind of frees up your APM. Like say you put the LLT right here, and then your commander stands right here, and suddenly your whole main base is kind of protected. But still, I think in this very early game, I would absolutely lean on defending yourself with units and radars. Still out into this point, like maybe start making LLTs. Like I know there's a couple of good spots to make them, like here, here, and here. But past that, you have to look and see like what are some good spots I can put LLTs that, you know, really defend myself. This one's hard to get. You really can't cover both the left and right side. There's really not one. There's not a good one over here. Maybe you can make like 2 right there. You can make like 2 right here, something like that. But still, even out in these wide open areas, I would say I would shy away from making the LLTs just because it's so flat and like your opponent can rotate around them, right? Like you're spending this time like putting an LLT here, your opponent can just come forward, see the LLT, and just walk around it. And that happens like pretty much everywhere you try to make an LLT. You could tell me, oh, I'll make one here around these 3 mech spots, and I wouldn't really hate it too bad just because it's so easy. Oh, that's a good spot, right? Yeah, we found one. This is actually, excuse me, these are actually really great spots to put radars. You can edge build these with your cons that are coming down here to expand. But like I'm saying, just defend yourself with radar and units. Don't have to worry about making all these LLTs. It's such a waste, really. And now we can see we have ran out of metal. We've solved our energy issues, and we're still into the same situation, right? It's like we have a limiting resource, so to speak, and it's metal this time. So what can we do to alleviate that? Well, one of 2 things. While you're in this part of the game, I like when you've ran out of your starting metal and you have expanding cons, you put your commander on low priority, and your metal income will go in towards capping these mexes instead of your commander's build power just assisting the lab making runs. So that's a nice little trick you can do. Also in this position, I would just have the energy storage up. We have decent energy income, so just grab this res bot and then just reclaim one of these solars. Maybe come back, reclaim some of these rocks. Your commander will continue to scale energy with wind turbines, and then maybe walk back up here, reclaim the second solar, and go forward and continue reclaiming trees. You should have an actual timing to make this geo. I like to place, like, say your first con turret goes here, something like that, or even here. You make a second one right here, and notice how the first con turret can assist this con turret coming up. It can still assist the lab, and it can also assist the geo going up. So make sure your second con turret comes over here. I would say this is a bit of a blunder moving the commander out. I would recommend on wind maps where you're playing bots to just stay in the main base with your commander. I know some players' style might be different than that. This is just personally what I like to do. It's so much build power. You can continue scaling wind. You can continue scaling, continue just assisting the lab making units, and you don't have to worry about the commander getting sniped. So it's just too much build power. Like you're just literally accessing build power this entire time, right? Where you could be making wind turbines, assisting the lab, right? Reclaiming solar, stuff like that. So a couple mistakes. Here's another little mistake I'd see. Just by and large, I would say don't make con turrets with a single con unassisted. I mean, there's some caveats to that. Like say you know your T2 con is going to arrive over here, something like that. If these are the last 3 mexes it's capping, and you have a con over here that was like scaling wind, yeah, make a con turret or 2 to like start your fusion, something like that. But besides that, just don't do this. Because now we have this unassisted lab. You abandon the lab with the commander, which isn't as bad now because they buffed the build power on the lab, but I'd still say like this is an unassisted lab for far too long. You can see our other commanders doing the same thing, but his lab is assisted by a con. He's making another con here. This is another no-no. I'd kind of say the same thing. Just don't make geos unassisted with a single con. You can, like we discussed, you can place a con turret here to get that assisted. Actually, I could just make the point, con turrets should have 3 jobs. They should be able to assist upgrading mexes. They should be able to assist your lab, and they should be able to assist a con scaling win. So this one's pretty well placed. It can hit these 3 mexes. You can scale wins over here with a con, and then it also can sit and assist the lab as well. So still a lot to go. This replay is about 17 minutes long, so we'll continue analyzing it. But we already touched on a lot of mistakes I'm seeing. Yeah, these twin guards are just complete overkill, and this radar could be placed a little bit better, I'd say, just up on this cliff right here, a little farther forward. You can see an engagement over here, some pawns versus grunts. You're doing the right thing. You just want to kite them, essentially. Don't want to let them get on top of that. And then, yeah, we're moving units to over to kind of assist against this raid. Opponent's backing up, so I would just take that opportunity to kind of do what you're doing. Take up a little bit more space on the map, because that's really what you want to be doing against Armada in this position. Is just because pawns are so like tanky and have such high DPS, you really want to push them away from your side of the map and away from your expanding cons and mexes. So kiting is like the first step, and then pushing forward is the next one, really. So just taking up space on the map and starting those engagements far forward gives you more time to kite backwards against these units that are better, air quotes, something like that. And the pawn has slipped through. Oh, what a disaster. Kind of reacting to that now. It's like we lost a couple of grunts over here on this side. So you really have to stay on top of this. Let me check out this player view, actually. I know some players play like this, but losing that, that was a huge blunder, I'd say. And it could have been prevented, actually, is if you took this as your first mex, this was your second mex, and you put your radar here, came down here, made this mex, and then you started the LLT there, something like that. So you would have had this radar up already to be able to spot this pawn and protect your res bots. So prioritize getting those radars up so you have more information of what's going on the map. I see we've made an additional LLT. I absolutely hate that. Can't emphasize that enough. We're expanding with our commander, kind of sprinkling in radars and LLTs. And this pawn will... Oh, and that's not good. It will end up going down. Okay. So we have this idle resbot here. You want to prioritize with your resbots, like picking up mexes, cons, and resbots, something like that, before you go after reclaim and units, especially in this position. We see where we're not really... We are limited on build power at this point, right? We have a full energy bar. We even have an energy storage up. We have 300 metal, so that means put down additional con turrets. See any conversations about the balance triangle. I can explain that a few times. Maybe in the second replay I'll touch on that a little more. And we're still making cons, so commander's idle. You really want to have long build queues with units. If you're ever out of loss of what to do or have some excess APM, just continue adding on to these expanding build queues. It's a good place to start. And we're making an energy converter. I would have just said, like, oh, just use that build power to go into a con turret, because you'll chew that up. If you have 7,000 in the bank and the con turret costs 3,200. So what do con turrets draw? Assisting that, yeah, 121 energy per second. So you can definitely pay for that quickly. Hearing a lot of shots all over the map, trying to get some raiding done. Which against Armada, I like to play a little more defensive. And really what you're trying to do is just have grunts in position to stop all these raiding pawns. So that'd be like having grunts like here, here, and like once you know that you are able to prevent run bys from the pawns, that's when you can start like pushing forward onto the map and like trying taking up space. And then your cons are expanding behind that, right? As you push forward with these grunts. So this is just a big blunder. I would really shy away from making energy converters at this part in the game. If you're accessing more than like 150 energy per second, that's your key, and you have metal in the bank, that's your cue to make an additional energy storage. Given the fact that wind's very low right now, you seems to be going up, but you could even like make a solar, just like left click on the con, ZX, left click on the con turret, right click on the solar, same thing here, ZX, left click on the con turret, right click on the solar. So you can spend some of this metal in your bank and solve these energy issues. At this point, I'd also be really inclined to start thinking about making the geo. You also want to have your energy storage up for that, because geos are rather energy expensive. 1300 energy to make that. And I see our commander still idle. So there's, to my earlier point, if your commander is just in the main base assisting the lab, you're like, and you're always right clicking back on the lab to assist it, you're really never wasting this build power. And it's 300. I mean, that's like a contour and a half, something like that. It's like we're going to lose another res bot. Absolute blunder. You got to pull those back. You see that happening. You are picking up this one over here, so I would just go ahead. Yeah, make another res bot. We can see that's happening. And they're still stalling energy, so really at this point, I would have absolutely just considered just making some solars. You can even make solars with your commander on the front line here to solve these energy issues. So big problems here. We got both players actually really struggling to spend their metal. And I guess the one saving grace is you have contours in your base, and your opponent does not. So to us, another point though, on a large macro map like this, I would say you do want two cons expanding energy, or scaling energy rather. So maybe like put an additional contour right here, and then it can assist like all this area to start scaling wind. If you are scaling wind that aggressively and you have your energy storage up and you're accessing quite a bit of energy, then you can start moving into making energy converters and, like, you know, start those underneath contours as well. So but at this point, I'd say it's a bit of an egregious mistake having this much metal. So we could have solved these energy issues or addressed these energy issues earlier, and could have been spending our metal. So accessing metal is pretty much like the worst thing you can do. Yeah, it's like always going up. So you really got to fix those sooner. And making these kind of like high energy structures while you're low on E is also a blunder. So you have to address this issue first, which is just at this point, it's pretty much making solars. We see wind is still going down. So yeah, finally we see some solars going down. But past that, I don't really. I mean, I've touched on some really major mistakes, and I think anything like past this point in this game wouldn't really be worth addressing if I can see like we already have these big mistakes happening. I think that was the grave robber. Yeah, grave robber degree. Too bad I got overkilled. And then we're just running grave robbers over here. Not ideal. A forward radar would have helped you solve that, and I would say like you would go like mechs radar, something like that, because you still want to be like pushing this radar vision forward with your expanding cons. And like I was saying earlier, you have cons that are expanding, and then you're just defending them with radars and units, so to speak. Wind maybe has kind of fixed itself. I'd still maybe add on a few solars here just to get over this hump and spend this metal bank. You can always reclaim them with your con turrets, so I wouldn't be afraid of doing that. And I think I might stop here. So I know the replay goes on for a bit longer. Maybe we can kind of breeze through this, see if we can spot anything else. See forward metal storage. Hate to see that. Kind of have to do what you gotta do though. Got our air lab up. I like to go just finch first and fly it right across the map because you never know what your opponent's going to be doing. So it's nice to have a good idea of these bombers that are going to be coming at you. So yeah, before you make your own bombers, you want to like, well, it's tough. You can definitely get a faster air lab up. You can even reclaim your bot lab and just, you know, have one lab that's your air factory, aircraft plant, and go for like the fast surprise bombing run. But at this point in the game, I absolutely would have just flew the Finch like just directly to the main base, something like that, and try and spot for exactly what this is, exactly what's happening here. Your opponent's making bombers, and you don't really have a response to that. I mean, we have a few figs out, but I mean, with this many bombers, you can kind of kill all of your wins. Let's see what happens. Oh, he actually backs up. That was not ideal. And then another big mistake is just never do this. Don't have a, well, two things with bombing runs you don't want to do or avoid is number one, you don't want to be bombing downhill because it bugs out the dropping, the bombs dropping, and you do not want to have blind bombing runs. So you always want these escorted with a Finch and C actually, because your target is like build power and wind turbines. And this is just excuse me, an ineffective bombing run. So scaling conturrets, I would say you could improve on this positioning here a little better. Like have a conturret here, here, right? Have them spread out a little more so they can assist more things. Like you can scale energy, you can assist the lab, you can upgrade mexes. And this is a perfect spot to put a T2 lab, save this energy converter that's kind of blocking units coming out of it. But this right here suddenly is not, it can't be assisted by, like, actually, why can't I see the build radius on that? Yeah, it can't be assisted by this contour, right? So bit of a small little mistake. Most of the time too, if you're balancing your macro properly, you would want to just reclaim this T1 bot lab and make the T2 lab, but we have so much metal in the bank, not really necessary. Man, that is a lot of build power on an air lab. And here's the counter bombing run, so it just gets tons and tons of value. Actually, it could have been a lot better here. Wasn't really microing that properly, but I imagine, oh, he got the T2 lab, never mind. Really strong play.
Commander has died.
And the commander gets sniped because it's out on the map. So we touched on some major things here. I'd say really what I'd emphasize is like not making LOTs in your main. Get your two expanding cons, defend them with radars and units. If you're in the Cortex bots versus Armada bots matchup, you really have to, I would say, focus less on trying to raid and focus more on trying to defend yourself against their raids because kiting is so effective against pawns. It's hard to like have the APM to do both, like raiding efficiently, not getting like not running into pawns, right? Because if you're moving forward, the pawns can close the gap, and really like the strength of the grunt versus the pawn is having that extra range, and you can kite them super efficiently. So hope this helps. Dungeon or Jin, if I would encourage you to continue coming back to the Bar Academy, keep getting feedback, keep trying to improve. So I really like doing these 1v1 tickets, so feel free to continue submitting these. I'd be happy to look at more of them. So thanks for that. If you haven't hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. We'll be heading into the next replay, so see you guys there. And we're back. Hello, welcome to the second review. Got another one here submitted by CJ Mill on Feast of Hades, and he writes, "Hello, I just lost a 1v1 match against someone with much less experience in OS than me, and need to think seriously about why. I'm trying to play on larger maps so that I can be under more pressure to expand economically and potentially head into T2 in these games. In this game, I opened Armada bots, and my opponent opened vehicles, which resulted in bad trades. Also, I was stalling on energy most of the game and was constantly trying to keep up on energy production. I started overflowing metal even. So I need to think about how to better scale. Also, I need to think harder about how to respond to the opponent opening vehicles when I open bots. which tends to be bad for the bot player. The reason I opened bots was because Resbot's OP, but one thing I wondered is how soon I should transition into vehicles. Should it be almost immediately upon seeing vehicles? Well, let's see about that. We'll get into this replay here. Here we are, Beast of Hades. I really like this map. I'd say it's a big macro map actually. 4 to 14 wind speed. There's a bit of energy reclaim here. A lot of different options to go for starting positions, and there's these 2x 3 mechs clusters here. Three metal income clusters kind of sprinkled on the map. I've been thinking a lot about this map actually, and I'd say like this is kind of how you want to be splitting the map in half. Something like this. Like you can fight over these mexes, but you really want to, I'd say this is a more natural corner to spawn into, because the ramp to approach that is more on your side of the map. Like to get to this hill, you have to come much closer to your opponent's side, or it just seems like farther away. So in my mind, this is how we should be splitting the map in half, something like that. So that's that. We have a couple different options to spawn as too. If you're playing vehicles, like these are perfectly acceptable spawning locations, like say up here. This one's not too bad, honestly. Playing bots, personally, I like to spawn here. I've actually been spawning here in a lot of my matches, and you can expand with your commander in a really efficient way. So I like to just come back here, grab this, right? Make the LLT right here, and then you just walk back to the lab, and suddenly you're protected. You've taken a bunch of mexes, and you're not like putting yourself out onto the map and have that potential to be getting sniped. So this is a good spawning position for playing bots. This one's good for vehicles. This one's good for bots, I'd say as well. Shout out Gucci. This one seems fine too, just because like you have all these equal distance to all these expansions, right? So I don't really hate it. Just not my style. Let's get into the replay though. So here's our man, 90s fan, who, wait, so I double check this. DJ Mill. Okay, I'm gonna assume this is MT Guardian actually, because he said his opponent was lower OS than him, so this has to be our man. Let me just check real fast. There's a slight blunder here, because you made one turbine after the second mex, and I think you should be making 2 wins. I guess we went with the recent buff though. 10 seems to be about the wind speed, minimum wind speed to okay, so NT Guardian is our man. Sorry about that. So to my earlier point, don't really like this as a spawn for playing bots. I'd say this would be better, this would be better, this would be better, just from the previously mentioned points. So up here, I guess depending on where you're going to be expanding with your commander, I really don't like this position spawning as a spawning bots. Also noticed there earlier on that you had a bit of a wasted build power with your commander. He was kind of sitting there idly, which is completely egregious that early on in the game. So you absolutely want to get these units started earlier. We go Resbot 2 ticks con, Resbot 5 ticks 2 cons. I'd say the second Resbot is a bit unnecessary. There is energy reclaim here, but it goes pretty quickly. So I'd say 1 is pretty much sufficient. The 2 ticks after I don't hate. You can get those out on the map and start scouting. And then we're continuing to fix our wind issues with our commander. So far so good. Don't mind the build queue. I think, yeah, just cut this Resbot and everything would look pretty fine. You can see we're going into an construction turret rather early. I'd say kind of shy away from this. Our commander is still idle here, which is super bad. We do have the energy to pay for this, so 200 energy per second and a full energy bar is really what you need to be able to get out this con turret with your commander. But one thing to note, I would have put down this wireframe with the con and then just move to start expanding. Looks like we're going to be expanding backwards with that. So something to note. we are stalling energy, so, and we have metal in the bank, so you can just add on like one or two of these, one or two more wind turbines to get over that hump and like come back to assisting the construction turret. So one thing to note, like we discussed earlier though, is I can see this commander expansion path, which I don't like. Like a con could actually come up here and do this same expansion and then maybe come up here like this. And then your commander, expanding with the commander is better if there's a bunch of 3 mech spots you can go to. So like you can just walk here, here, right? Suddenly like this, and you've turned on 3, 6, 12, 15, 16, 17 mexes, right? With your commander in a very short period of time. So that's when I'd say like, yeah, expanding with the commander is like decent, is if there is these 3 mech spots to go after. We can see we haven't really totally spent our starting metal, but this con turret is doing some work. You want to be spreading these cons out. Also, I would have taken the opportunity to put a radar right here. Not the best radar, but it's gonna certainly protect you from units that are coming in this way. And have we excessed energy? Yeah, 1.3k excess. So I really think that could have been buttoned up by just having the one resbot reclaiming. We're getting that energy storage up, which I'd like to say, like, you really want to be around 300 energy per second. Ooh. 300 energy per second. Maybe you're like 275 to 300 energy per second, which we're in that range, but it seems a bit early for my liking. And then we're going into this pawn production. So we've ran out of starting metal, and we're kind of stalling on metal at this point. So this goes back into what I was saying. Put your commander on low priority. The radar would have addressed this issue. We wouldn't have lost that. And if you are stalling metal like this, you can go ahead and like queue up 5 ticks, something like that, just to kind of get more vision out. They cost less metal. And we can see like we can't even finish this energy storage. So I think this is a bit of a blunder here. And another thing is when you're looking at 1v1 maps and you're thinking about like expanding, you really want to have in mind like how many expanding cons you need to be effective. Most of the time I say you need at least 2 on like wind maps, right? And say we spawned here and we asked ourselves like, well, how many expanding cons do I need to like split my half of the map efficiently? So without considering the commander going out and expand, I'd say you need like 1 going this way, you need 1 going this way, you need 1 going this way, right? 1 going this way, and then maybe even 1 going like that, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 expanding cons. We have our commander out on the map expanding, but like these 2 cons right here could absolutely be expanding, right? So that's really going to help. Like this one can go this way, this one can go this way, or even just have 2 cons expanding here. This is B2 cons expanding and it goes like this, something like that. So when you are stalling metal like this, I'd consider like what could we have done differently, and I'd say cut this energy storage, right? Cut one of these resbots. I can't believe we lost both of those. Absolutely do not make this. This is just a complete waste. When a radar would have been completely sufficient, right? If like a radar and ticks would have defended us against any kind of vehicles coming out. So spotted a pack of incisors. Is it? Yeah, incisors moving this way, so that's where you want to be sending your pawns. We're also getting some vision on this side of the map. And that's where having these extra ticks come into play. I'd say like making like 10, 20 ticks in the early game is okay, because like you can start parking them everywhere and get great map vision, right? You just have ticks parked all over here, and it'll give you the vision you need to put your pawns in the right position to defend yourself against these tanks that are grouped together. So big mistake so far. I think this 4th resbot is a bit excessive because we can use this resbot to pick up these two, and then go back to reclaiming energy or picking up units, reclaiming stuff. Rizzing does cost a bit of energy, right? 50 energy per second. So I know we're like, we're making wins in our main base, but considering we have about 100, 200 metal in the bank, I would say, oh, just make a solar here with your commander. Kind of fix these energy issues. You can spend that metal very quickly. The idle con here, you always want to, I think actually that's stuck. Maybe he can work his way through here, but you always want to be maybe expanding your build queues, like have made these wins here and then come over here and make more wins, or just right click back on the lab, have it assisting. So we're still stalling energy. This can be, oh my gosh, what a huge blunder. Yeah, you didn't take bad trades because you're bots. You took bad trades because you didn't have radar. This would actually be a decent radar spot to put these right here and here, because vehicle players can't kill those. So consider making these 2 radars. This would be an okay radar as well. But we have 500 metal in the bank. We're stalling on energy. So if we go back to the triangle, build power, metal, and energy. So the outside triangle is like perfectly balanced, and the inside triangle is where you're currently at. So we have a decent amount of build power in the main base, so I'd put that here. You have a bunch of metal, and you're short on E, right? So this tells you what you need to be. That's not really a good triangle. This tells you like what side you're weak on, and it's E. We can see like we have build power, we have metal, but we don't have E. So that means make solars, right? On a map like this. So let's say just, you know, left click on this, right click on the solar, make some solars with your commander out here, right? Maybe add an extra LLT to defend it, right? But we have to be spending this metal to fix our energy issues. This is such a big blunder, really. Honestly, I'd say the game is almost over from right here, so. And like, how do we get into this position? Well, it's really like not having a radar here. You could even have placed a radar right here with your cons before they move down into the ramp, and that would give you some warning against units that are coming after you. And then maybe even another radar right here to spread that range out farther. So prioritize getting the radars up before you move into areas that you need to expand into. And yeah, 2 pawns are not going to take on 4 incisors, so I guess this LLT might end up bailing you out, but hey, it can't shoot over the winds. Bit of a blunder. So this is a bit of a shorter replay review. I don't want to go much past this because we made so many mistakes already. One thing to note is about what we mentioned earlier. So say you started here with your commander and you put your main base there. Suddenly you have like much quicker, better radars to put up. Like you could have put your first radar here and suddenly like it sees everything that you're trying to defend, right? You're expanding cons going here and here, right? You get a second radar there. Your commander can go back, expand like this, and then go back to the main base. You kind of touched on this earlier in the replay review. It's like if you're playing bots, just stay in the main base with your commander because you can continue scaling wind. You can continue assisting the lab with that 300 build power. You can even make much more protected solars, right? Spend that metal and fix these energy issues. So commander's really efficient at making solars. So I think that was the big blunder. Making the second, third, and fourth resbot also a big blunder. It's like, yeah, because these units are out right now, and like you are, I guess it will eventually clean this trade up, but the game cleaned this raid up. But the game's essentially over, I'd say. Take a look at your command. This guy's main base, right? Just has the 1 con in the main base. He has 1, 2 cons expanding. The commander should just be making solars here and then just walking back to the main base. So he's got all the metal in the world to spend. He can fix his energy issues and just get a con turret up and just like start printing incisors. So it's going to be very hard to get back into this game. I guess we do clean that up a little bit better than I thought. But we have 1,000 metal in the bank and we're 5 minutes into the game. So it's like, this could all be prevented by keeping your commander in the main, essentially, or just like start making solars earlier. Like you could make 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 solars right here. Like maybe keep the commander there and like put some additional LLTs. So like this this energy investment doesn't get canceled, something like that. But having 1,000 metal in the bank is not good this early in the game. Let me back it up and see like when we could have actually started fixing these energy issues earlier, because you it is a 14 wind speed map, and it's like, yeah, that's like technically like wind's more efficient, but in practice I'd say like you can start making solars earlier. Like, it's like this isn't like 14 wind speed doesn't tell me, oh, don't make solars. Like 4 of it as a minimum says, okay, this is gonna suck really bad if we go too far into the game, and yeah, we have 1,000 metal at 5 minutes into the game. So 1,000 metal in the bank, 5 minutes into the game. So when could we have started making solars earlier? Let's see. This is fine. So here I'd say we haven't spent our starting metal all the way, and our commander is moving out. So one thing to note is once this con turret comes online, I would say get at least like 3 more wind turbines with your commander, because this has a lot of build power, and you're not going to be able to use it all if you start making anything other than ticks. We're drawing minus 255 right now with the con turret assisting the lab. I guess we're making a single mex over here, but yeah, this is when things started to go south. So cut this, don't make this second one. Get your radar up earlier. If we choose to stay here, just put a radar like here or something like that. That'll prevent these two from getting lost. It just breaks my heart seeing that. If we are stalling metal like this, make a round of ticks. Just left click on the lab, hold shift, space, left click on, or just hit V, excuse me, to make some ticks, excuse me. And prioritize getting vision with ticks. So like we talked about, putting them here, here, and here. I know we didn't touch on a lot or to go too far into this game, but I'd say really, if I were to give you like some super concise advice, I would say if you're playing bots, stay in the main base with your commander. This map's a bit of a caveat because it is so efficient to expand, but you could have spawned here and then just had like, you know, one con goes like this, one con goes like this, make a third con, send it up here, right? Still get this LLT. This is a great LLT, by the way. It could actually be a little bit farther back because maybe some ticks could like run through here, or grunts or something like that if you are playing against a bot player. And keep your commander in the main base. Get your radars up. Gosh, I was gonna say one other thing, kind of blanking on it. I still would encourage you to, you know, kind of come back, submit another replay, and continue working with mentors, because I'd like to see you continue to improve NT Guardian. So hope this helps. Sorry it was a bit of a shorter one, but we made a bunch of mistakes earlier on, and I think it's just really about like spending the starting metal, something like that. So just really rely on radars to defend yourself with your expanding cons, and maybe pick a better spawn location. So hope that helps. If you guys made it this far, make sure you hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.